Kale moved quietly through the dim corridors of the starship, his footsteps soft against the polished metal floors that hummed faintly with the ship's energy core. The corridors stretched infinitely, glowing lines tracing along the walls in pulsing arcs of soft blue and green, as though the ship itself were breathing. He muttered under his breath, a small joke to steady his nerves. Great Kale, wandering alone in an alien starship, what could possibly go wrong, other than everything? He paused at a junction, instinctively scanning for the telltale signs of danger, or surveillance, he wasn't sure which. His hand brushed against the smooth console embedded in the wall, and a faint holographic map flickered to life, showing the winding paths of the vessel and the locations of crew members, or what he assumed were crew members. He squinted at it. "Looks like someone forgot to add bathrooms or snack bars," he muttered. "I'm officially judging this starship." From the corner of his eye, he noticed movement, slight, deliberate, almost imperceptible. Kale froze, realizing the motion wasn't from a machine or the ship's automated drones. It was her. Selara stepped from the shadows, her long ears tipped with faintly glowing crystals that pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. She looked almost human at first glance, but the elegance of her ears, the fluidity of her movement, and the quiet authority in her gaze made Kale feel simultaneously reassured and completely exposed. "Kale," she whispered, her voice soft, yet somehow carrying through the corridor like a gentle vibration. "You are aware but not entirely cautious." He swallowed, trying to sound confident. "Aware, yes. Cautious, well, I'm getting there." Slowly, very slowly. Her lips curved in what might have been amusement, though her eyes remained keen. "Slowly is acceptable, but awareness must be complete. There are consequences for inattentiveness aboard this vessel, sometimes more subtle than alarms, more lethal than falling debris." Kale's gaze darted around the corridor, half expecting some hidden mechanism to react to his presence. "Right, subtle consequences, got it. And by subtle you mean possibly lethal, or mildly embarrassing." Selara's crystal bands flickered rapidly, and Kale thought he detected the faintest hint of a smile in her expression. "Both," she said, voice low. "Subtlety can be humorous if recognized in time. Failure can be humorous if recognized later, preferably not at the expense of life." He attempted a nervous laugh, running a hand through his hair. "Humor check, recognition still learning. Survival instincts, questionable but improving steadily." She extended a hand, motioning for him to follow. "Then follow. Observation will teach you more than speculation." Kale stepped forward, and with each move, he noticed the subtle interactions around him. The way the ship's lighting shifted slightly as he walked, the gentle hum of machinery responding to his weight and presence, even the flicker of the crystal bands along Selara's ears, signaling small reactions to his gestures. Humor bubbled up again as he whispered, "It's like the ship is judging me too. Fabulous." Selara's gaze held him in place for a moment, her crystal bands pulsing softly. "The ship is alive, Kale, not merely in machinery but in awareness. It will respond to you as it would to any intelligent presence. Do not mistake caution for control, nor familiarity for safety." He nodded, swallowing nervously. Control overrated anyway, safety highly preferred, familiarity optional but desired. They moved down the corridor together, Selara guiding him through a series of doors and junctions, each presenting subtle environmental cues that Kale had once overlooked. A panel flickered when he stepped too close. A soft hiss of air accompanied his passing through a pressurized doorway, and at one point, a small orb of light hovered near his shoulder, drifting in a lazy circle before aligning with the path ahead. Kale muttered, "Great. Now the ship is giving me light directions. I can see it judging me, glowing, silently mocking me." Selara's ears flicked, her crystal bands pulsing in what he now recognized as amusement. Judgment is not mockery, judgment is awareness. Learn to read it. They entered a larger atrium, where floating platforms hovered above a shallow pool that reflected the starlight streaming in from panoramic windows. Bioluminescent decorations hovered above the water, pulsing with gentle light, creating a soft, almost hypnotic rhythm. Kale tried to focus, attempted a joke under his breath. Next thing you know, these lights are going to start singing. I swear, I'm not ready for musical zero-G gardens. Selara's faint laugh echoed, a musical sound that seemed to harmonize with the hum of the ship. Your humor is inefficient but effective. It lightens tension if not control. Kale exhaled slowly, letting a bit of his nervousness fade. I'll take ineffective but effective. Sounds like a human trait anyway. She moved to the edge of one platform, gesturing for him to step forward. Observation, humor, and trust will guide you more than manuals or rules. Step carefully. The ship's awareness will amplify every choice you make. Kale stepped onto the platform, feeling it shift slightly under his weight, floating in perfect balance above the glowing water. Each step was deliberate, each glance measured. He noticed Selara's crystal bands pulse slightly faster when he hesitated, slower when he adjusted correctly. The connection was subtle, almost imperceptible, but he realized he had learned enough to respond. "See," she whispered. "You adapt, you learn. That is the foundation of trust aboard this vessel." Kale chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Trust with someone who can read unspoken thoughts, and a ship that judges me silently. Fabulous combination." Selara's lips curved faintly in acknowledgement, her ears flicking with the soft pulse of crystal light. "You will survive, Kale. That is all that matters for now. Humor may guide you, but attentiveness will save you." He exhaled again, feeling a small sense of calm settle over him. Humor, observation, and awareness, strangely enough, felt like tools he could rely on. The night, the ship, and the alien presence beside him were no longer wholly intimidating. They were lessons, guides, and warnings, and he understood, perhaps for the first time, that surviving here meant more than physical caution. It meant attuning to subtle cues, embracing vulnerability, and daring to respond with presence and humor, no matter how imperfectly. Kale's grin was small but genuine. "All right, floating gardens, judgmental ships, omniscient alien women, let's see what else this night has in store." Selara's crystal bands pulsed softly, a rhythm he had come to recognize as quiet approval, and together they moved deeper into the living, breathing corridors of the starship, each step a lesson in trust, perception, and the strange, exhilarating balance between human humor and alien intuition. Kale followed Selara down a wider corridor, the walls alive with softly pulsing energy conduits that traced intricate, flowing patterns like veins of light. Every few steps, panels flickered to life, holographic readouts projecting star charts, structural schematics, and environmental data. He tried to glance at them quickly, but the information seemed to move faster than he could process. "Great," he muttered under his breath. "Now the ship is showing off too. I swear if it starts doing interpretive dance, I'm quitting." Selara's ears twitched with subtle amusement, the crystals pulsing softly. "Your humor again. Effective distraction." "Noted," she said, her voice a musical whisper that made him feel simultaneously observed and oddly comforted. He swallowed, forcing a grin. "Distraction, yes. Also my only defense against alien intimidation, works about half the time." They turned a corner into a chamber filled with hovering platforms of varying sizes, each suspended in a faint, golden light. The platforms shifted slightly as they floated, their movement almost imperceptible but deliberate, creating a rhythm that Kale soon realized he had to follow. He took a tentative step onto the nearest platform, wincing as it swayed under his weight. "Okay, precision focus, do not fall. Also, please do not explode," he muttered. Selara's crystal bands pulsed faster and she leaned slightly forward. "Balance is instinctive, not just mechanical. Trust your body, Kale, as much as the ship. Observe, respond, adapt." He nodded, feeling ridiculous as he tried to align his movements with hers. "Adapt, yes. Also pretending to be competent, optional but highly recommended." "Optional," she agreed with the faintest flick of her ears, "but greatly appreciated." Kale's grin widened, despite himself, and he continued across the platforms, each step bringing him closer to a rhythm he began to understand. The ship's ambient energy responded subtly to their movements, lights pulsing slightly faster as he moved in sync, slower when he faltered. "I swear this ship judges me silently," he whispered. "You are correct," Selara said softly, "and it also responds. Awareness here is mutual, Kale, not just between us but with the environment itself." A sudden shift in the largest platform caused Kale to stumble slightly, and he made a small, self-deprecating noise. "See, human reflexes in action, or inaction, take your pick." Selara's lips curved in what he recognized as a faint smile. "Improvement follows imperfection. Your awareness is increasing, even when humor escapes you." He allowed himself a chuckle. "Escaping humor, my specialty." The platforms led them into a chamber with a panoramic viewport, the stars outside a dazzling swirl of nebulae and distant planets. Kale paused, momentarily distracted by the beauty of the galaxy. "Okay, I admit it," he whispered. "Space is gorgeous, terrifying but gorgeous." Selara's ears twitched with amusement. Distraction noted and approved. But do not allow wonder to replace caution. Observe first, marvel second. The galaxy is beautiful but not forgiving. Kale nodded, inhaling deeply, trying to commit the lesson to memory. Observe, marvel, survive. Maybe make a joke in between, got it. They continued down a sloping passage that hummed with the ship's energy. Each step a careful negotiation between gravity manipulation fields and subtle air currents. Floating holographic displays provided navigational data showing potential hazards, energy fluctuations, and optimal paths. Kale squinted at them. "So basically, this ship is like a maze, a floating garden, and a judgmental mentor all at once." Selara's soft laugh echoed through the corridor. "Mentor perhaps, judge occasionally, garden definitely." Kale shook his head, exhaling a nervous laugh. "I knew it. I always knew I'd end up in a zero-G garden with a judgmental alien woman reading my thoughts. And somehow I volunteered for this." "You did not volunteer," she corrected softly, "but presence requires acceptance. You are learning to navigate both the ship and awareness, your own and mine." He glanced at her, a mix of frustration and admiration in his eyes. "Learning, yes. Slowly. But with excellent style if I squint and ignore the fact I nearly faceplanted 3 times. Selara's ears flicked, pulsing a faint blush of light. "Style is subjective. Balance, awareness, and humor, these are your tools, use them." The passage opened onto a chamber filled with softly hovering orbs, their lights dim and shifting with a subtle rhythm. Each orb emitted faint harmonic tones that blended into the ship's ambient hum. Kale hesitated. Musical or judgmental again? Selara's lips curved faintly. "Both. The environment mirrors perception. Each action produces resonance. You are learning to harmonize with it, Kale." He swallowed, stepping carefully onto the next platform. The orb nearest him pulsed brighter, and he realized that the ship was communicating as subtly as Selara herself. Harmony, yes. Music optional. Avoid tripping, mandatory. Selara's soft chuckle echoed again, and for a moment Kale felt a strange comfort. Humor, observation, and trust were becoming intertwined. Missteps were tolerated if paired with attentiveness and willingness to learn. At the far end of the chamber, a small console projected a holographic map of the ship's upper decks. Kale's eyes widened. "Ah, so now we navigate a 3D maze while performing a zero-G ballet. Excellent. This is my kind of challenge." Selara's crystal bands pulsed gently. "Challenge is acceptable. Panic is optional. Awareness is mandatory. Proceed." Kale exhaled, suppressing a nervous laugh, and stepped forward with renewed focus. Each movement, each observation, each joke became part of the delicate rhythm, a dance of trust between human and alien. The ship's corridors, platforms, and lights were no longer obstacles. They were instruments in the same symphony that Selara guided. By the end of the passage, Kale felt a subtle shift in himself. Humor had softened tension, observation had sharpened awareness, and his presence had begun to resonate with both the ship and Solara. He realized, with a mixture of wonder and relief, that surviving here depended not only on caution, but on trust, adaptability, and even a willingness to laugh at the absurdity of being human in an alien world. He exhaled, glancing at Solara. All right, Zero-G ballet complete, musical orbs survived, judgmental alien woman acknowledged, and I'm still standing. Progress. Her faint smile, the gentle flicker of her crystal bands, and the soft hum of the ship seemed to answer him without words. Yes, Kale was learning, adapting, and beginning to thrive in a world where every thought might ripple outward, and every choice carried consequence. Kale stepped cautiously onto the next platform, its edges glowing faintly in response to his weight. The floating corridors stretched in every direction, soft lights tracing the contours of the ship's structure like veins of living energy. Each pulse of the illumination seemed to echo his own heartbeat, making him hyper-aware of every motion. He muttered under his breath, "Right, zero-gravity maze with ambient judgment, still surviving. That's something." Solara hovered nearby, her long ears tipped with crystal bands that pulsed softly with her own attention. "Your humor persists," she said quietly, "but so does your observation. That is encouraging." Kale grinned, though nervously. Encouraging, yes. Completely confident, not quite, but getting there, slowly, very, very slowly. She flicked her ears. A gentle wave of light pulsing outward, a subtle acknowledgement of his words. Patience and timing are more valuable than speed. Learn them, and the ship will respond favorably. He shook his head, whispering to himself, "Valuable, huh? Well, I'm now a human metronome for judgmental alien ears." Excellent career path. The corridor widened into a chamber filled with suspended holographic panels, each projecting star maps, system diagnostics, and shifting schematics. Tiny drones hovered near the edges, their sensors blinking rhythmically. Kale stepped carefully, trying not to disturb their flight paths. "Okay, let's not start a galactic incident today. One human blunder at a time." Solara's voice was close, almost a whisper. "Every action has consequence, Kale. Even humor, if ill-timed, can create disturbance, but you are learning to measure it." He smirked, measuring humor, new frontier in survival. "Next, I'll be calibrating sarcasm to alien safety protocols." She allowed a faint chuckle. "Sarcasm is a delicate tool. Use it with awareness or it becomes a hazard." Kale rolled his eyes with mock solemnity. "Noted, sarcasm. Hazard potential. Also zero-gravity pratfalls, high risk." They moved through the chamber, stepping on platforms that shifted gently under their weight. Kale noticed subtle changes in the pulsing lights and the soft hum of energy grids, responses to their combined presence. He realized he had begun to anticipate Solara's subtle cues. A slight tilt of her head, the rhythm of her breathing, the pulse of her ear crystals. It was almost as if they communicated without words, each pulse and gesture a language of trust and awareness. A larger platform floated ahead, surrounded by a faint energy field that rippled when they approached. Kale hesitated. Energy field, friendly, or dramatic entrance for humans? Solara's crystal bands flickered with amusement. Neither. Protective, but also instructional. Observe, adapt, step carefully. Humor may accompany movement, but caution is essential. Kale nodded, swallowing his nervous laugh. Observe, adapt, check, step carefully, hopefully. Humor always. Even if it's ineffective. He stepped onto the platform, feeling it shift and rotate beneath him. The energy field responded subtly, adjusting to his weight and position. Kale felt a surge of exhilaration and a touch of pride. See that? Human skill, mostly accidental but still skill. Solara's eyes reflected the soft glow of the panels. Skill emerges from awareness, Kale, not just technique. You are learning to anticipate, to harmonize with your environment. That is what matters. They continued to a circular chamber, where several smaller floating platforms orbited a central hub like moons. Holographic displays hovered above the hub, showing projected star systems, ship diagnostics, and alien glyphs Kale could barely interpret. He glanced down at the hub, muttering, "Perfect. Cosmic merry-go-round with judgmental guidance. What could go wrong?" Solara's quiet laughter echoed in the chamber. "Much if you misread cues, little if you observe and adapt. Humor is tolerated, even appreciated, if paired with attentiveness." Kale stepped onto the first orbiting platform, adjusting his balance as it shifted beneath him. The central hub pulsed softly in response, a harmonic resonance that seemed to reflect his own focus and missteps. He leaned forward slightly, then backward, testing the rhythm. "Okay, human metronome, engaged. Let's see if I survive the ride." Solara's ears twitched, crystal bands pulsing in soft approval. "You are beginning to sense rhythm in movement and in awareness. That is progress." A sudden sway of one of the orbiting platforms sent Kale flailing slightly. He let out a small, self-deprecating laugh. "See, rhythm achieved, accidentally but achieved." Solara's soft smile glimmered in the glow. "Accidental progress still counts. Your awareness has increased enough to recover quickly. That is important." They moved in synchronized steps around the orbiting platforms, Kale beginning to anticipate shifts before they happened, adjusting balance subtly and aligning with Solara's movements. The ship's ambient light pulsed in harmony with their rhythm, creating a quiet, luminous symphony that surrounded them. Kale whispered, "Okay, floating, harmonizing, humanship duet. Next step, survive with dignity intact." Solara's voice was near his ear, soft and melodic. "Dignity is subjective. Adaptation is measurable. You are improving in both observation and intuition." Kale exhaled slowly, allowing a small grin. "Observation, check. Intuition, improving. Humor, operational, though still slightly hazardous." They reached the far side of the chamber, where a larger platform hovered above a shallow, reflective pool. The water's surface shimmered, reflecting the starfield, earning and maybe surviving. Solara's crystal bands pulsed faintly, a silent affirmation. "You are surviving, Kale. You are learning. And most importantly, you are aware. That is enough for tonight." He chuckled softly, glancing around the chamber. "Aware, alive, slightly ridiculous, perfect. Let's see what tomorrow brings." They lingered for a moment, harmonizing with the ship's subtle energy pulses, Kale finally feeling a fragile sense of rhythm, trust, and connection, ready to continue his journey through the alien vessel with cautious humor and growing confidence. Kale stepped off the final orbiting platform with a small wobble, catching himself against a wall panel that hummed faintly under his touch. "And survived again," he muttered, voice half proud, half incredulous. "At this rate I might start thinking I'm competent." Dangerous thought. Solara's ears flicked, her crystal bands pulsing in subtle amusement. Competence is measured not by survival alone, but by adaptation, observation, and the ability to respond with calm judgment. Humor, if deployed wisely, may also serve as an asset. Kale raised an eyebrow. "Asset, huh? So my nervous jokes are now officially classified as strategic tools. Excellent. Finally, recognition." She didn't answer directly, only allowed a quiet flicker of light to trace along her ears in acknowledgement. That alone was enough for Kale to feel a surge of triumph, though he masked it behind a casual shrug. "Right. Strategic tool. Check, human morale improving slightly." They continued down a long corridor whose walls were alive with shifting panels of light, each displaying information Kale couldn't fully comprehend. Engine output, shield alignment, and subtle readouts that pulsed in complex rhythms. He glanced at them, muttering, "Somewhere in there I'm sure it's judging me, or maybe applauding. Hard to tell." Solara moved beside him, effortless and fluid, every motion precise, yet without tension. "Observation is more important than interpretation," she said softly. "The ship's information responds to interaction. Your focus should be on awareness, not guessing intent." Kale nodded, trying to keep his grin in check. "Observation, got it. Guessing optional, misreading inevitable. They entered a chamber where the gravity field fluctuated subtly, requiring careful attention to maintain balance. Floating platforms hovered above a shallow pool of bioluminescent liquid, casting rippling reflections across the walls. Kale stepped cautiously, trying not to disturb the gentle sway of the platforms. Ah yes, the floating garden of panic and reflection, very educational and slightly terrifying. Salara's ears flicked again, the crystals pulsing lightly. Fear is natural, but it should not dominate. Awareness and humor together create balance. Kale chuckled nervously. Awareness check, humor check, balance questionably check, mostly wobbling but it counts. As he moved, he noticed the subtle interactions around him. The liquid's glow brightened as he shifted weight correctly, and dimmed slightly when he faltered. The platforms responded to combined mass and movement, adjusting almost imperceptibly, as though the chamber itself was teaching him rhythm and control. He whispered to himself, "Zero-gravity waltz with judgmental lights, excellent exercise for coordination and ego." Salara moved beside him, guiding subtly, never touching, only adjusting her steps to maintain harmony with his. "You are learning to anticipate movement," she said. "That is the true challenge, predicting interaction, not just reacting. Humor may accompany you, but it should not replace attention." Kale smiled, shaking his head. "Accompany, not replace, got it. I'm a humor accessory, very useful, very professional." The path led to a circular observation deck, where panels of light formed a gently rotating helix overhead. Stars beyond the viewport swirled lazily, the motion enhanced by the ship's subtle rotation. Kale paused, breath catching at the beauty, then muttered, "Right, space is gorgeous. Absolutely lethal if you misstep, but gorgeous." Salara's voice was close, soft, musical. "Marveling is permitted, but only after assessment. Observation first, admiration second." Kale nodded, trying to focus. "Observe first, admire later. And try not to fall into the abyss of zero-G marveling." Noted. He stepped onto a floating observation platform, adjusting his balance carefully as it tilted under his weight. The platform pulsed slightly in response, a gentle reminder of its sensitivity. Kale whispered, "Okay, synchronized waltz with alien woman and a judgmental ship. What could possibly go wrong?" Salara allowed herself a small smile, the pulse of her crystal bands flickering lightly. "Much, if you misread the cues. Little if you are present and attentive. Humor is tolerated, even appreciated, as long as focus is maintained." Kale grinned nervously. "Appreciated, yes. Focus, well, working on it, and occasionally spectacularly failing, but we'll call that character building." As they moved through the observation deck, Kale began to notice subtleties in Salara's cues. The slight shift of her weight, the tempo of her breathing, the pulse of her ears. Each gesture communicated more than words ever could, teaching him to perceive and respond intuitively. He whispered, "Right, subtle alien language, humor translator, got it. Human interpreter engaged." Salara's ears twitched with a faint pulse of light. "Interpreter, accurate enough. Awareness improving. Continue." They reached a section where small holographic drones floated in synchronized paths, scanning the chamber and transmitting information to the ship's core. Kale hesitated, muttering, "Okay, flying judgmental lights. Can't touch, can't panic, must survive, got it." Salara's voice was calm. "Observe their patterns, predict their movement, respond without hesitation. Humor may accompany the process, but precision is mandatory." Kale exhaled, forcing a grin. "Precision check. Humor operational, slightly hazardous but still operational. Human excellence at work." He stepped carefully among the drones, adjusting his motion to their paths, feeling the rhythm of their flight like a pulse he could align with. When he misstepped slightly, one drone shifted in response, but Salara's calm gaze and soft pulse of her crystal bands reminded him to correct, not panic. He chuckled softly. "See, drones may be judgmental, but they're polite. Like Salara mostly." Solara's lips curved faintly in amusement. Politeness is a byproduct of awareness. You are improving, Kale. Not perfect, but effective. Kale let himself laugh quietly. Effective, yes. Mostly alive, also yes. Floating, slightly ridiculous, check naturally. The chamber opened into a wider atrium with cascading energy currents forming luminous arches, like a river of light frozen mid-flow. Floating platforms rose and fell gently, each responding to weight and motion. Kale paused, feeling a mixture of awe and anxiety. Okay, rivers of light, judgmental alien woman, floating floors, yep, all components accounted for. Let's not die yet. Solara stepped ahead, the light from her ears pulsing softly, guiding him with subtle cues. Do not fear the rhythm, Kale. Embrace it. Awareness and humor together form the bridge to survival. Kale exhaled slowly, adjusting his stance. Bridge, got it. Humor operational, survival pending but optimistic, rhythm working on it. They moved together through the atrium, Kale beginning to sense patterns, subtle cues, and the way the ship responded to their presence. Humor softened tension, observation sharpened awareness and trust, unspoken yet growing, bound human and alien together in a fragile yet resilient partnership. Kale glanced at Solara, a mixture of admiration and self-deprecating grin on his face. All right, rivers of light, judgmental flying drones, alien guidance, and I'm still upright. Progress. Solara's ears flicked, crystal bands pulsing a soft, approving rhythm. Progress. Awareness strengthened, trust maintained, continue. Kale exhaled, feeling a quiet satisfaction. Humor, observation, and adaptability were becoming tools he could rely on. The night was far from over, but he understood that survival aboard this alien vessel required more than caution. It required rhythm, trust, and the courage to laugh even when the stars themselves seemed to judge him. Kale stepped onto the final platform in the atrium, the soft hum of the ship vibrating beneath his feet like a heartbeat. The floating panels of light pulsed in gentle waves, responding to his movement with a subtle resonance that had become familiar over the past hours. He exhaled, the nervous tension that had accompanied him since his first steps aboard the ship now tempered with focus, rhythm, and something he couldn't quite name, confidence perhaps. Solara hovered beside him, her long ears tipped with softly glowing crystals that flickered in time with the ship's energy. You have adapted well, she said quietly, her voice almost blending with the hum of the ship. Your awareness has matured. Your humor, though occasionally chaotic, has remained effective. Kale gave a small, self-deprecating laugh. Effective, I like the sound of that, though chaotic still seems to sum up my career choices. She allowed the faintest flicker of amusement to ripple across her expression. Chaos is sometimes the catalyst for growth. You have learned to read subtle cues, to respond without hesitation, and to trust not only yourself but the patterns of this vessel. He nodded, thinking back to every stumble, every hesitant step, every nervous joke he had uttered. Each misstep had been a lesson, each awkward recovery had become a tool. Trusting patterns, yes. Trusting my ability to not make a complete fool of myself. Well, still a work in progress. Solara's gaze softened. Progress, not perfection, is what matters. You have survived through observation, humor, and intuition. That is proof of your evolution here. Kale let his eyes sweep the atrium, the floating platforms, the glowing energy currents arching overhead, and the panoramic view of the swirling stars outside. He remembered how, hours ago, he had feared falling, failing, even being read completely by the alien presence beside him. Now, every pulse of light, every shift of a floating platform, every subtle signal from Solara felt like a conversation, a language he was beginning to understand. A small orb floated toward him, pulsing with gentle blue light, one of the ship's drones he had previously misstepped around. He held out a hand, letting it hover near him, and it tilted slightly as if acknowledging his control. Right, we're friends now, yes. Friendly judgmental orb, got it. Solara's voice echoed softly, melodic and approving. Recognition of interaction is essential. You are aware of your environment and your presence is harmonized with it. That is a mark of trust. Kale exhaled slowly, allowing himself a real smile this time. Humor had softened the tension. Observation had sharpened his awareness. Trust had grown, delicate but resilient, binding him to the ship and to Solara in ways words had never managed. Trust, got it. Observation, check. Humor, operational. Survival, extremely probable. Solara's crystal bands flickered lightly. Now you understand that intuition and attentiveness can save more than instinct alone. You have learned to perceive intention, to anticipate consequences, and to respond without hesitation. These skills extend beyond this vessel. They extend beyond this night. Kale glanced at her, feeling an unexpected warmth amidst the residual adrenaline. So, basically, I've gone from clueless human to slightly less clueless human who can survive alien judgmental floating corridors. That about right. Her lips curved faintly, the light along her ears pulsing softly. Slightly less clueless, yes, but more importantly, capable, aware, and present. That is what matters. He let himself laugh quietly. Capable, good. Present, still a little panicky, but working on it. And alive, check. Alive is nice. A new path opened at the far end of the atrium, leading to the command deck, where the ship's central controls floated like suspended constellations. Kale noticed the rhythm of the lights, the gentle sway of the platforms, the quiet hum of the core. Everything seemed to be in harmony now, a delicate balance he had learned to navigate. He moved forward, Solara gliding alongside him, the pulse of her crystal band syncing almost perfectly with the ship's ambient energy. "You have grown, Kale," Solara whispered, voice a soft vibration that carried both approval and caution. "Not only in skill but in understanding. You now perceive patterns, not just events. You anticipate rather than react. You trust rather than doubt. And most importantly, you have learned that humor can coexist with vigilance." Kale nodded, allowing a chuckle to escape. "Yes, humor is still mandatory, even in the final act. Consider it my official contribution to galactic safety." Solara's ears flicked lightly, pulsing with a glow that felt almost like pride. "Your contribution is noted, and your awareness ensures survival, both yours and those around you. That is a rare combination." He stepped onto the command deck, the view of the stars wide and infinite through the transparent panels above. The gentle hum of the ship, the glowing paths of energy, and Solara's presence created a strange serenity he hadn't expected to find. He realized he no longer felt like a passive passenger in the alien environment. He was part of it, responsive, engaged, capable of reading subtle cues, and yes, even allowed to laugh at himself along the way. Kale exhaled, letting the tension of the night melt away. So, floating corridors survived, judgmental alien woman acknowledged, musical energy fields navigated, zero-G gardens tamed, and I'm still upright. Progress report. Human success rate increasing. Solara's crystal bands pulsed softly in affirmation. "Your growth is complete for this journey. You have embraced attentiveness, empathy, and